Editing. Film editing is a part of the creative post-production process of filmmaking. The term film editing is derived from the traditional process of working with film, but it now increasingly involves the use of digital technology. The film editor works with raw footage, selecting shots and combining them into sequences to create a finished motion picture. Film editing is described as an art or skill, the only art that is unique to cinema, separating filmmaking from other art forms that preceded it. Filmmakers discovered that editing shots into a sequence not only contributed to the audience's sense of tale, but also enabled them to tell more complex stories as a result. Early on, the cuts were made in the camera, so the cameraman would simply stop cranking the exact end of a shot and begin cranking again when it was moved somewhere else, or when something else was put in front of it. This kind of editing could allow for some early special effects. One of the most notable directors of the 1920s was Sergei Eisenstein, who transformed the principles of classical editing into something more consciously intellectualized. He called this montage. Sergei Eisenstein saw montage as a useful propaganda film tool. Montage was a way to put together a number of shots more or less or quickly in a manner that pointed out a moral or an idea. Some filmmakers chose to minimize editing. For example, some documentarists saw editing as a way to make their anthropological visions appear more interesting. Others saw minimal intrusion as a more authentic way to go. Other documentary styles emerged in which editorial intervention was minimal. Even in an era of incredibly advanced special effects, some filmmakers are still enamored of the photographic realism in sustained shots. But the past 20 years has also seen a rise of the digital editing, which makes any kind of editing easier. The notion of editing film on video originated when films were transferred to video for television viewing. Filmmakers used the video to edit their work more quickly and less expensively than they could on film. The task of cleanly splicing together video clips was then taken over by computers using advanced graphics programs that could then also perform various special effects functions. Different editing techniques. According to Walter Murch, when it comes to film editing, there are 6 main criteria for evaluating a cut or deciding where to cut. They are, in order of importance, most importance first, with notional percentage values. Emotion, 51%. Does the cut reflect what the editor believes the audience should be feeling at that moment? Story, 23%. Does the cut advance the story? Rhythm, 10%. Does the cut occur at a moment that is rhythmically interesting and right? Eye trace, 7%. Does the cut pay respect to the location and movement of the audience's focus of interest within the frame? Two-dimensional plane of the screen, 5%. Does the cut respect the 180-degree rule? Three-dimensional space of action, 4%. Is the cut true to the physical relationships within the diegesis? Editing styles. What became known as the popular classic Hollywood style of editing was developed by early European and American directors, in particular D.W. Griffith in his films such as The Birth of a Nation and Intolerance. The classical style ensures temporal and spatial continuity as a way of advancing narrative. Using such techniques is the 180-degree rule, a basic guideline regarding the on-screen spatial relationship between a character and another character, the establishing shot. An establishing shot sets up or establishes the context for a scene, and a shot reverse shot. Shot reverse shot is where one character is shown looking back at another character, then the other character is shown looking back. The French New Wave filmmakers such as Jean-Luc Godard and François Truffaut, and their American counterparts such as Andy Warhol and John Cassavetes, also pushed the limits of editing technique during the late 1950s and throughout the 1960s. French New Wave films and non-narrative films of the 1960s used a carefree editing style and did not conform to the traditional editing etiquette of Hollywood films. A montage sequence consists of a series of shots that are edited into a sequence to condense narrative. It is usually used to advance the story as a whole, often to suggest the passage of time, rather than to create symbolic meaning. In many cases, a song plays in the background to enhance the mood or reinforce the message being conveyed. Transitions. Every film today, whether it be live-action, computer-generated, or traditional hand-drawn animation, is made up of hundreds of individual shots that are all placed together during editing to form the single film that is viewed by the audience. The shot transition is the way in which two of these individual shots are joined together. The most basic type of shot transition is the cut. In essence, it is the continuation of two different shots within the same time and space. It is the most basic in that a film undergoes no special process to perform a cut. A contrast cut is where an editor can strategically cut to juxtapose two subjects. For instance, somebody dreaming out of a beautiful field of flowers, shot A, maybe suddenly wake up inside a burning building, shot B. The sound would be serene and peaceful in shot A, and suddenly loud and painful in shot B. This contrast between peace and chaos is intensified through the sudden transition from A to B. A jump cut is usually the result of a continuity error, and not a stylistic choice by the director. A jump cut occurs when a cut, designed to act merely as a camera angle change, reveals a continuity error between two shots. A fade occurs when the picture gradually returns to a single colour, usually black, or when a picture gradually appears on the screen. Fade-ins generally occur at the same beginning of a film or act, while fade-outs are typically found at the end of the film or act. Like the fade, a dissolve involves gradually changing the visibility of a picture. However, rather than transitioning from shot to colour, a dissolve is when a shot changes into another shot gradually. Dissolves, like cuts, can be used to create a link between two different objects, a man telling a story and a visual of his story. A wipe involves one shot replacing another, travelling from one side of the frame to another. Think of a vertical line passing from the right side of the frame to the left. On the left side of this line, we have shot A, and on the right side of this line, we have shot B. When this line reaches the left edge of the frame, shot B will completely fill this scene, and the transition will be complete. Using different shots for different parts in film makes the film more interesting and realistic. This is because by using the correct shots and camera angles, it helps show the emotion that the characters have, which will have a big impact on the audience because it will make them feel exactly the same way as the characters.